This is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments, and I am continuing to work on this album for my husband, doing pages for events that I was not at because these are from his childhood. So I just wanted to kind of work through this with you and kind of give you an idea, maybe some ideas of how to organize pages that you're not really sure how they go together. So all of the things that you see in front of you right here are a part of an experience my husband had when he was working, or while he was in Boy Scouts. He got to go to the National Scout Jamboree in 1985. And I know all of these things go together, so that's not a question. But the question is kind of how to lay it out. So a couple of these pages came from a really big packet of papers that included tons of maps with a route laid out for how they were going to get from San Diego, where they lived at the time, to Virginia, which is where this National Scout Jamboree happened. So I went through, and obviously we don't need all of those pages of maps, pages and pages and pages of maps. This is back before GPS was a thing. And so but I do want to document that route. So I'm going to create a condensed version just of the continental United States, where I can draw on there approximately the route that they took across the United States to get to Virginia, and then come back to Kansas City, where they then flew back to San Diego. So that being said, there is going to be an additional map that will need a place amongst all of these papers. I have this kind of welcome letter that came from his troop leaders. We've got the double patch with the bar from the National Scout Jamboree, which I'm going to put at the beginning with this kind of welcome letter. And then what I decided to do was kind of get creative. So this is an additional patch just for the San Diego Council of Scouts. I like to kind of spread color out when I have just plain papers that I want to make sure I'm including in a heritage album. I like to, if I have anything with color, kind of try to spread it out so that it adds some interest to each page instead of keeping it all on the first page. So this patch is going to go a little bit later later on in the progression of this information. What I'm going to go ahead and do is on these first two pages, I'm going to include that welcome letter. I'm going to include this troop roster, which I've gone ahead and blocked all the names off of, just even though it was back in '85, you just never know. Someone may get upset that their name was revealed, that they went to this National Scout Jamboree. So anyway, we'll do something decorative probably down the side of this. Then on the next two pages, we'll do, this was the cover for that informational book. So we'll do that, might trim that up just a little bit. This is a map of the National Scout Jamboree, or the National Scout headquarters in Virginia. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this. It was originally a trifold informational thing for parents, so that if they needed to reach the boys, they knew how to call them. And I love this map, how it shows exactly where they're going to be located. So since that is on this outer fold, what I'm going to do is probably cut this and use just this map, and we'll put that maybe up here in the corner, and then arrange this so that it's down here or something like that. So that will go on that page and with this patch. And the opposite page is going to include this piece of artwork. I think it's a watercolor that my husband did while he was at camp. We'll frame that up nicely and put that next to it. Okay, and then the second double page layout will include this calendar of events and kind of what they did on their way, because they stopped in several different places. This was a 3-week trip. It was humongous. So unfortunately, I don't have any pictures from any of that adventure, but we do have this information. So I'll put this calendar of events framed nicely with that map that I mentioned before next to it. So that's kind of the progression of how these pages are going to lay out. And just for right now, I'm going to set this information aside so that I can get back to it later. And we'll just go ahead and work with these for right now. So when you have just papers, and sometimes papers are maybe not as jazzy as you might like, you kind of can think of some different ways to dress up the page to kind of embellish it just a little bit. What I'm going to do, since this was a major road trip, is I'm going to make a road, and the road is going to go all the way across all 6 pages. That way there's some continuity there, and we know that all 6 of those pages go together and they're the same event or series of events. So let me show you kind of how to do that. We're going to use the Creative Memories Wavy Trimmer, which is a really fun tool and very easy. And we're just going to make a road. So you just use some black cardstock. You want it to be 12 inches long so that it'll go all the way across your page. And I know you're saying you've got black on black. How is that going to work? Well, you can do that a couple of different ways, but let me just show you how we're going to do this. So I'm going to center my paper, my cardstock. I'm going to go up one. You can't see that because it's not in your view. Let me just shift this just a little. There we go. Okay, so there's a grid on this trimmer, and I'm going to place my cardstock so that the bottom edge is on the first grid line, not the bumper, the first grid line up, and then also the first grid line down. Again, not the bumper, but the first grid line down from the top up here. All right, and I'm going to put it on the first solid line above the wave so that I can keep my paper straight. That's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to go ahead and push my blade across. Okay, then what I'm going to do so that my road is even, I'm going to push my cardstock all the way to the edge of my trimmer, keep that this bottom edge right on that first grid line up from the bumper, as well as the top edge on the first grid line down from the bumper. I'm holding my paper between the 2 trimmers because there are 2 different trimmers on this, so that my paper is steady. My top edges are right at the edge of my trimmer up here. Okay, then we're going to come back down. By doing that, I can cut multiples of these that are going to be the same width so that my road stays the same for every page. Okay, so now I can go ahead and push this again to the edge. Make sure my borders are where I want them to be. Holding my paper. There's 2. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut a couple of more of these while I'm at it, so that when I go to put those other pages together, they are much faster. Let's see. Putting my upper edge right to the edge of the trimmer, keeping my border at the bottom where it needs to be. Sometimes it takes a little fiddling. And it looks like this piece of cardstock is not going to get me as far as I had hoped. Give me a second. I'm going to grab another piece from my scrap drawer. Keep building more roads. Ever take a road trip during the summer? We took lots of road trips when I was growing up. Mostly because my father's family was from the Midwest, and so we would drive back there right after school got out and spend time during the summers. People don't take as many driving vacations anymore, I don't think, or when they do, they're just different. My sister and I we have fond memories of playing fun games in the car while we would drive because we didn't have videos and we didn't have phones to play on and that kind of stuff. So we had to be inventive, or at least more inventive than my kids needed to be when we would take drives. Okay, so now we've got enough roads that we can do a road across each of our 6 pages that we're going to have. So I'm going to set the other 4 just kind of off to the side for a little bit. All right, this is a herringbone patterned paper that comes in or with this genuine paper pack. So if you have the genuine paper pack, then you have this paper. And I just chose it because some tires have this pattern, which is kind of fun. I'm not going to make a giant border. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this at 2.5 inches so that I have a little bit of that herringbone pattern showing on either side of my road. And I've got another sheet of that, so I'll have plenty of that to do to make those other borders with. Okay, now we're going to put our road in the center because I like to put things in the center. You can play with this and put your road wherever you want, but I want to put my road so that it meets in the middle and continues on. Right? Just like that. Something along that line anyway. Now, these are going to go underneath our documents. So, you know, it's not super critical, but it is nice when it all lines up in the center. So, you know, it depends on how you like to scrapbook, but I like my things to line up and be symmetrical. When I'm working with just about 1 inch of paper, rather than do my adhesive all the way down like that, I just kind of do a strip, a vertical strip. And then work my way down like that. Okay, so we're going to go across like so. Let me add adhesive to this page or this piece. Now again, I'm going to line up these sheets, these two borders, even though they're going to be on two different pages. I'm going to line them up so that I can then line this up so it will be in the same place and give the effect of a road that's continuing on. Okay, very good. Now, I'm not going to add the details on this road just yet because many of them are going to be covered up, and there's no point in covering them all up and taking the time to put them in when we're just going to put the paper on top. So let's go ahead and add these to our design. You might notice the back side of this particular kind of paper has like a chevron pattern that looks a little bit like, again, a tire. So it's a pretty cool piece of designer paper to have available to work with. But on a black page, it wouldn't really make much sense to use that other side, even though it's cool. All right, so I'm gonna just put my border up maybe an 1 3/4 inches or so from the bottom. And because it doesn't need to go right along the bottom. And so just to make some diversity in your pages, just play around with putting your borders somewhere else, because you really don't have to have them all just go along the bottom of your page. All right, in the interest of making this a little easier, I'm going to move my stack of nearly completed pages so that I can work with these a little bit easier here. Let's set those over there. Sorry. Avalanche. I have too many things stacked around my workspace. Okay. So we're going to put these two pages together so we can make our roads connect and not be worried about them. And we went to all the trouble of making the road be in the right place so it meets. And then if we go and put it so that it doesn't line up, that's not going to work very well, right? So we're just going to kind of eyeball it, make sure that the roads are at the same level and adhere your border. Okay. Now these papers, given that they're from 1985, they may and probably are not, they may be and probably are not acid-free or lignin-free or safe papers, which if you're really concerned about the historical content of what you're putting in your scrapbook, you might want to put this in a plastic sheet first before you adhere it to your pages. It's up to you, again, how careful you are being with your documents that you're putting in. This is not a document that is going to be of huge historical consequence, not like it's the Declaration of Independence or anything, you know, like that. So I'm going to go ahead and just adhere this to my page. But just in the interest of full disclosure, if you are looking to keep your pages as safe as possible so they're not going to degrade, yellow, cause anything else on the page to yellow, or be affected by anything else on the page, then you might want to put documents that you know are not acid-free or lignin-free inside some kind of plastic. Again, I'm not worrying about that too much with this, but it is something worth noting, and I always feel like I need to help remind people of that, because you just never know who's watching this video. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and adhere that on, and then I'm gonna go ahead and adhere these patches. And if you were watching my last video, you saw that the the stronger adhesive that I have that's similar to this was not holding my patches very well. So I'm just going to go right to photo tape to hold these down because I think it will work better. So adding 2 strips on each of these, or at least 2 strips on the big one, and then maybe just 1 across the smaller bar that will go on the bottom of this patch. I added the patches to my husband's military album. That was kind of fun to add patches from all of his different units to that album. Also added his pins that he got or that he would wear on his dress uniforms. We just take the pointy part off the back of the pin and you can put that right into an album. It's really fun. Let's see, it's too much. Actually, I'm going to cut this in the middle. We're going to do 1 down each arch or each angle here. Okay. And then this will go right underneath. All right, now, oh, we need to do this page. So let's do this page real quick. Get this on. And then we'll be ready to continue working on our road. Light pieces of paper, you probably don't need as much adhesive as I just put on there, but that's okay. Just making my edges a little bit even as I can. Even and straight. All right, now, so we need to go ahead and make our road. And you can do this a couple of different ways, but you are going to need to draw. So if you are squeamish about drawing in your albums, this may not be the best layout for you, but there are a couple different options. Creative Memories has these cool chalking pens, and a chalking pen is going to fade your paper. So let me just give you an idea. If this was our road and we used our chalking pen as a sample, we're going to make a dotted line to indicate the dotted line across the center divide of the road. This pen is designed to fade the color of your paper and give it the effect of a chalkboard. It does take a few minutes though, if you can see how that is fading, so you can see that line now. And it does look similar to the lines on a chalkboard. So that's going to be fairly faint, but you can definitely tell it's there. So that's a chalking pen option. Then if you have the silver double-sided journal pen, you could use this pen to make your lines. And they would be kind of more of a reflective variety. So, and as you make your lines, you'll want to be a little more careful than I'm doing in these examples. But I'll show you in just a second. So that is the silver double-sided pen, and I'm using the bigger end of the marker, not the journaling side, but the other side, to make those lines. But what I have found I like best, and even though this is not a CM product, I feel like I should share it because CM doesn't have anything that works quite like this, but this is just a jelly roll pen, and it's white. And some jelly roll pens work better than others, but you can usually buy the white pens in different packages. So it creates a much thinner line and much easier to control. So it depends on what you prefer. I like the silver in that it is kind of more shiny. So it draws your attention to it a little bit better. But if you're drawing in a lot of details, then this white pen, this jelly roll pen would probably be my choice. Because you can draw so much more precisely with it. The chalking pen is nice for certain things, but I like it more for drawing designs that you would expect to see on a chalkboard. And so I'm not going to use that today. But anyway, I just thought I would show you some samples of different ways, different products and things that you can do with it. So we'll set those aside. I'm going to go with the silver pen today. And I'm going to go ahead and use the thinner end of the edge of the pen. And I'm just going to go down the center of my black and make even short strokes. Try to make them the same length. This and right down the center of your black line, your street, your road. Don't forget this little bit over here that's connecting your page. And then do the same thing on the other side. And I'm going to do this through all 6 pages so that, again, so there's a continuity of the design. And it's easy to see that all of these pages go together. Now, if you want to get even a little bit more involved and creative with something like this, you can you can use a punch, and I need to find it. This is a punch that we currently have in our line, and it's for an oak tree. So we can add some trees, which will add a little bit of interest to our road. Just a second, I need to find some brown paper. Not the color I'm looking for. I need dark brown paper. So we'll pull out a whole sheet because I don't think I have any smaller ones right now. And I'm just going to punch a couple of these trees. Come on. Where did my tree go? Oh, there it is. This is the first time I've used this punch in a long time, and I have a little bit of oil from the punch that's gotten on my cardstock. So just something to keep in mind. You want to avoid that in your final design if you can. But sometimes if you have a brand new punch, there's a little bit of the oil from the mechanism inside that will come off on your cardstock and darken it. Okay, so I've got 4 good looking trees there. And I need some green. Actually, let me see if I have some green scraps, because I have just a bunch of green. Green scraps. This is when you want to keep, you want to have extra pieces of the greens that you've used along the way. Or you can use maybe a printed designer sheet of green paper. This is a great time to use that kind of stuff. Okay, so then I'm going to cut some trees from this green. And do a couple from this green. We have kind of a variety in our forest. We'll figure out which ones we want to use in a second. I'll cut a couple from this green. And then we'll decide. All right. So setting that aside, get rid of the little bits of confetti from our punch. All right. Now we're going to combine these to make our green tops and brown trunks of our trees. And I'm going to use my precision scissors to do this. We're just going to follow the curve of the green on the punch. I'm just going to cut off the branches or the trunk of the tree from this green. Okay, then what I can do is put a little bit of my repositionable adhesive, which has walked away for the moment. Oh, here it is. It's just hiding. Okay, I'm going to put a little adhesive, repositionable adhesive on the back of this. We're just going to add this to the top of our tree so that we have our green leaves. All right, so we're going to do that for several of our trees, and then we're going to add them along our route right here. Okay, so let's cut. We may need a few more. I may need to punch a few more trunks because I punched a lot of green leaves. I like the green. I think the green adds a lot of interest to your page, so it's nice. And I could even use, depending on how much oil I have showing, I could use some of my, I could use this piece, maybe not, it's got a lot of oil on it, so let's not. All right, never mind. Okay, let's see. At camp, I'm sure there were lots of trees, and especially in Virginia. So I think it would be totally appropriate to put these trees, as many of them as we can put together. And I'm really liking this little scrap of designer paper that I found that has kind of some variants in the green color because it kind of makes it look more tree-ish. All right, let's punch a few more of these tree trunks so that we have enough, because I only have 3 at the moment. I need 2 more. All right. Now we're going to just adhere our leaves. Now, another thing you can do just to add some variation, you can flip your tree the other direction and then flip your green that you're going to use. So your tree branches on every tree are not exactly the same. Again, it will just add some interest, some variation to your page. So that tree's a little bit different. You can't do that with the designer paper, unfortunately. I guess it depends on what you have on the back and how you punch it. If you want the variation, then you would just flip your paper over and punch it upside down, and then you would get that variation, which is kind of fun. Let's see, I'm going to do this one backwards. This side. And we're going to do this one the right way. Or maybe, no, that's going to be backwards. With this side. Okay, now I've got 3 trees on each side, and I've got one extra tree. So we'll play with that when we get there. Let's see. Okay. So just so I don't forget about him, we'll stick him right there. Okay, so let's see. Let's put our trees, let's arrange our trees over here. We're going to need some of our repositionable adhesive on the back of our trees. Design wise, it's best to put your trees in 3s. So you want, or an odd number at least, not necessarily 3s, but definitely in an odd number. So, so 3 on one side and 3 on another side is good. And then because we have an extra one, we could save it for another page, or we could maybe put it right in the middle. Let's see what we can do with it. If you've never heard that saying about it's better to have odd numbers of things, then I would just mention that that is a typical directive in most art type classes. For some reason, our eyes just really appreciate odd numbers better. So we could cut the tree in half and put it right in the center. That one might be interesting. Let's see if we can use, let's see if I can use my trimmer to cut the tree in half. Or roughly in half. My cut was a little bit off. It's kind of hard to cut something so teeny, but that's okay. We will go ahead and stick him on here best we can. Maybe so that he's, now that would have him right in the middle of the road. That's not going to be good. Let's put him coming off the lower part of the road. Now he's covering up our cute little dash that we added, but that's okay. All right. Just make sure that you are matching them up so that your tree isn't wonky. All right. There we go. And you still have room over here where you can journal or put a title or do something. I would definitely use this for a journaling space right over here. All right. So I'm done with these 2 pages. I'm not going to continue this video on the next few pages, but I may make some additional videos of those pages so you can see them. All right. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope it's giving you some great ideas. And until next time, I wish you many opportunities to keep creating. Have a great day.